Hello again, Seth Fineberg on behalf of Ace Cloud. And man, do I have a person for you today. I am super happy. I know I'm always excited for the people that I speak to, but me and Joe Woodard go back. Joe Woodard, say hello.
It's great to be here, Seth. Great to be here.
Excellent, Joe. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I know you have a little bit of an event coming up. We can definitely get to that and touch on that as it is relevant, I think, to our topic today. We really want to go into firm transformation essentials. Now, prior to recording this, you had mentioned something to me about, the things that you basically, to paraphrase, the things that you're doing today, they might not even apply, tomorrow or a little bit further down in the future. I
Yeah,
actually
it's
recently wrote an
changing at the
article.
pace of AI development, which is
Yeah,
exponential.
exponential. And I even wrote an article recently about the idea that of the 10-year plan, the traditional 10-year plan, it's pretty much dead.
Yeah.
It's just not realistic. You can't run a firm or business. You can have a vision, I think, for where you want to be, but your core planning that you do, um, it's hard to imagine it even a few years out.
Yes.
So what would you say, just right out of the gate, some of the key components, the keys to transforming your firm today, just in
Yeah.
terms
All
of
right.
thinking, and then
So here's the
we can get.
interesting thing, Seth. Even as technologies accelerating timetables and making our planning more volatile,
Mhm.
it still comes down to the same seven fundamentals: your brand, your services, your clients, your technology, your processes, your engagements, and your teams. As long as all of those are pillars in your practice, the everything around them may change. I have a lot of interesting insights into what the team of tomorrow is going to look like. We can talk about that, but you're still going to be managing teams. All right. AI is going to become more and more prevalent of a prevalent technology, but you're still managing technology. So the pillars never change. And for your listeners that didn't get them that fast enough, it's brand, services, clients, technology, processes, engagement, and teams. Manage those and you're good.
Yeah, I mean that's really, when you're thinking about it all and you're in it, it's nice to at least have a bit of a punch card, a little bit of a list kind of
Mhm.
floating around in your
Well,
head
a
as you're doing.
category. You got to categorize your planning. If
Yeah,
not, you're
you
just kind
do.
of a blinking cursor and it's overwhelming, a blank whiteboard. Where do I even start? Great. Just start
No.
with one of those seven areas of focus. There's no right order to do them in. They all are symbiotic. And then you can start to, collect your thoughts and your brain, your ideation within those categories, and then build out from there. This is your level
Yeah.
one outline for a business plan.
Yeah, and it doesn't all happen at once, but having those as you go forward, um, really are going to help you in the long run. So in accounting, one of the things you mentioned AI and even technology in general, a lot of that core, a lot of the core technology that's available and has been available in terms of automation, it deals with the work. What would you say is evolving most at the firm level, regarding the work
Yeah. So
itself?
right
Because I
now,
would say,
go ahead.
even by nature of like being an accountant and doing accounting work, that's fundamentally changing. But I'm
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
throwing it to you.
And it's not so much the nature of the work that's changing yet. I
Okay.
think it might. It's how we're going about the work, right? So if we look at AI's impact on not just the accounting profession, but just on work in general, we want to differentiate between AI's impact on tasks and AI's impact on roles because a
Mm,
lot of people conflate those two things. So when AI is in, if you treat it as what tasks are AI impacting, then it comes down to the person who's responsible for the role or the overall outcomes. AI becomes a question not of who is displaced, but what portions of a person's work are then automated or or they have extreme efficiencies or effectiveness attached to them. So if we think, even if you're a sole practitioner in here and you haven't had anybody ever reporting to you, you've never had an employee, I've got a news flash for you. If you use any GPTs in your practice, even the most baseline AI, that's what a GPT would be, you now have an employee. It's just an artificial one. And
Hmm.
that's why I said I was going to have a fun kind of comment when it came to what the team of tomorrow looks like, right? So the question, and if you think about it that way, if you think of a GPT as either a task handler or maybe an administrative assistant, but I think it goes beyond admin. It's almost like a paraprofessional, an admin assistant.
Hmm.
Then that's the tasks you're offloading it to. But at the end of the day, your client's still saying, you're the tax preparer. You're the person signing my audit report. You're the
Right,
bookkeeper.
right,
Your role hasn't changed, just your work.
right. The
And now, to answer your
outcomes.
question specifically, where am I seeing it intersect firms today? It is in the task of research.
Mm,
The research that they're doing, because research is concrete and it has a fixed data set, especially if you're using the right GPTs. Like for
sure.
example, if you're using tax GPT and you're doing tax research, you're going to get more structured tax data than if you're going to chat GPT. So it matters which GPT you're using. But if you're using the right one, you're going to get really solid research data. Not perfect, but solid. Hallucination rates are down to 1% with a lot of GPTs. That hallucination rate, if you're not familiar with the term, is just where it would make stuff up.
Right.
And
Because
and
it
so
because
now,
it doesn't really know,
yeah,
and it's letting you
research is
know,
the
like, I
first
don't
domino to
entirely know
fall.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and just even how we're referring to it these days, I've been hearing, less artificial and more assisted, augmented, things that are not as
Enabled. Yes,
you know,
right.
lofty and foreign, and it's more, okay, I can get my hands on this, and it's very exciting to see. We could have a whole conversation just about AI, but this is really
Sure.
about, you know, firm transformation essentials. Um, to that point, Joe, why now? What's going on in the environment that, in a sense, is urging firms to make these types of adjustments?
All right. So the biggest driver of this is private equity's infusion into the profession. Fun fact, as of 2020, not one accounting firm in the country had taken private equity money. That's just 6 years ago. And now it's approaching 50% if it hasn't already crossed that mark. And that is causing an urgency of valuation increase ahead of exit. And firms are getting serious about their planning to drive the EBITDA up so they can get the multiples of EBITDA.
Hmm.
And then the firms that are on the buy side, on the private equity funded side, they're more C-suite driven than they are partner driven. And that's driving a different level of innovation and prioritization. That prioritization is concentrating around CAS, client advisory services, because of the fact that you have 12 touches a year instead of one touch a year. And
At
in
least,
theory, you
yeah.
don't get 12 times the revenue, but you can get 6 times the revenue depending on the value of the tax return. Each month cycle could be, half of an annual tax return. So
Right.
they're looking at that just strictly as a monetization game and an upsell game, so that they can then acquire, drive value up, and benefit, the shareholders, just like any corporation would do.
It's
So yeah,
interesting.
that's a biggie. Now that
Yeah.
all roads lead to AI though, because the reason PE is investing all of these tens of billions of dollars, hundreds, I think it's over 100 billions of dollars now into the CPA market, is because they see AI as a huge efficiency driver and a scale driver. So they want to come in, they want to innovate around CAS, create more touches, then drive extreme automation through artificial intelligence. Um, but that's what's creating the sense of urgency.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, look, you always have to wonder what's behind driving, this industry. Obviously there's some innovators, there's some leaders, there's folks who are making those decisions. They're leading. Some are maybe being, pushed or pulled by their clients in either way, and
Mhm.
others that are just simply being led.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very hard to just be that kind of firm anymore. Which brings me to my next question, really. What are you seeing as some of the missteps to avoid when you're thinking about, oh man, there's definitely a lot of pressure to change, man, and I just so don't like that, and I really just want to keep doing what I'm doing, but it's very hard to just run
Yeah.
a firm the way that you were running it for the last even 10 years. So I got to change. I got to evolve. But what are some common
Well,
missteps?
and some firms aren't thinking that. So I'm going to say the first misstep is not to recognize that the paradigm is changing.
Mm,
It's the head in the sand approach. And there, if you want with anything in life, Seth, you know how it is to be a human, you can
mm.
confirm any bias you have. Just watch the right news channel, just read the right articles, read the right books, listen to the right
Sure, listen
podcasts.
get the right people in your
Yeah,
ear. Yeah.
exactly. Create the right echo chamber. You can convince yourself once you have the bias that this is all just AI hype, go out and confirm that in all these different places, and you lock in on that belief, and you do that to your peril. So that's a misstep. A misstep is to believe it isn't real. The second misstep
Or
is
it'll
to
pass. Or
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. The second misstep is to panic and act too quickly
Mm,
without the proper vetting of technology, process and training strategy for your team, integration strategy, and privacy and security strategy. So if you want to kind of put those things into extremes, you ignore what's happening with all of these rapid changes to your peril, and that would include PE and mergers and acquisitions in that too. You ignore all of it to your peril. You react to your peril. What you need to do instead is respond. Response is the right approach. It's intentional, it's methodical, it's timely, but it's not panicked.
yeah, I like that. So you mentioned a couple of things too about, in the missteps, security being, kind of still a very key issue, one that really can't be ignored. And with AI, obviously, there's some things that have to get sorted out in order for it to evolve. Much in the way, if you remember, not all that long ago, really probably back around the time that you and I were first talking to each other. There was a another sort of disruption going on in business and in accounting, the advent of cloud and cloud technology. And it was kind of met with a similar level of trepidation. And, this won't really do much for me, and
This won't
I'm
last. This isn't
won't last.
helpful, and it isn't safe. I heard all
Where
three.
does where does cloud fit in today? Where
Yeah.
would you say in terms of planning, thinking, and relevancy?
Yeah. So cloud, of course, just meaning internet connectivity, is never going to go away if you define it as just the way that two
Right. Or
computers talk to each other.
cloud tech,
Yeah.
within the
But like the
the
SaaS
concept.
software, right? That right now we're
Sure.
in this middle of
And
this thing that
services
yeah,
as
and
well. But
services.
yes, yes, yes.
We're in the middle of this thing right now called the SaaS apocalypse, right? And
Mm,
whether that's a real thing or not, only the markets will tell. Right now, of course, if you own any shares of any traditional SaaS products, you've taken a real hit, as I have, over the last quarter. And it was all at this inflection point of Anthropic launching a certain version of their platform that sent a ripple effect through Silicon Valley and then through the markets. And it was when Anthropic showed that it could code software without, just by prompting and do it. I mean, it's always been able to do that a little bit, but to the degree it can do it now. And so, the prognosticators were looking out and say, okay, if this trajectory continues, then people won't buy software. People will just tell AI to generate whatever software they need at the time based on the thing
yeah.
they're trying to
Build
do at the
it.
time.
Yeah.
So the theory is that 20 years from now, that a user of AI would just simply type in, I want a general ledger solution that integrates with my bank accounts that will manage all of my job costing for a construction company. And by the way, preload it with a chart of accounts
Right.
and pre-connect it to all of my
Yeah. If
banks, and
if
it would just
somehow that
code it.
doesn't exist,
Right.
it's,
Well, no, this
whatever it
doesn't
is.
exist today, but the trajectory is that you would just ask for that and it would appear like a genie in a bottle, and then you could use it without any licensing, right? So when this trajectory happened, whenever people are looking at it, they were going, okay, well then, cloud is dead. Now, now talk about an overreaction. I've
Mhm.
held all of my holdings in software companies. I still have them. Everybody is saying hold, don't sell, that this is an overreaction to the market. But it still is an interesting thought exercise, right? Because it's a way to answer your question. Where's cloud fit into all of this? And the idea, Seth, that I'm going to pay for a human being to have a license to access the features in a product, that's the model that's disruptible.
Mm.
Instead, you're going to find more and more software solutions charging you based on the outcomes of what that software product is doing. Now, Digital was the first one to come out with this. They issued a press release this past week. We're recording this in April 2026. And they said that they're going to start charging based off the number of bookkeeping cycles that they produce, not over the number of users who access their product. That's
Yeah,
very telling. And those kind
I'd
of,
say.
of companies that price on that model are going to succeed because a human doing a task is always going to be more expensive than a bot doing task. And when you're moving budget from a human worker to a bot worker, you have a lot of room to work with. So I think work in the entry level is going to go down in accounting firms, and it's going to be replaced with paying bots to do the work for pennies on the dollar.
Right. That was kind of speaks to the question I had before about the work and like what the value is and where we're at. It's almost the age of we're entering the age of outcomes. And
Right.
that's
The
why
age of the
things
artificial
like,
worker, not just the artificial intelligence.
yeah,
Yeah.
working with it is going to be essential. And this gets to my next question, Joe. We have to ask, it's hard to really predict even how the AI of today will be used in the future. But for where we're at now, what are some of the more practical ways
Hmm.
firms can get going if they haven't already, beyond just asking it questions and seeing what
Yeah,
it
right.
comes
So
up with?
glorified search engine's the easiest way to
Right.
get. Yeah. I tell people
And I
if
know
you've
some
never
people that
gone
have
to a
even
GPT
almost
prompt,
completely stopped using Google
yeah, well,
because
exactly.
of that.
So if you've never gone to a GPT prompt in your entire life and you find it intimidating, just treat it like a search engine and ask it questions. And
Yeah.
it is a
See what it
search
comes
engine
up
on
with.
steroids, right? Right. Now, the second stage is
Yeah,
to
the practical stuff.
yeah, the practical steps. So the next step, what I would say, if you want very simple kind of applications, because you can build your own agents. Over here at Woodard, we're training Anthropic with skill sets, so it can convert PowerPoints and convert Word documents and review articles and review curriculum, fact check us on things. All right, so we're building all these agents, and obviously, firms, and especially in the top 200, they should have people in their firms building agents. Okay, but to really simplify it, to say, okay, your first step is to use GPT as a browser, some simple research. The second step is invest in software that's AI enabled. Shift the burden off your teams trying to master this technology and let the software developers serve it out to you through the features in their various products. And when you're doing that, it's really important that you separate their more hype from fact, because AI's become a marketing buzzword. You can't go to anybody's website without seeing AI listed there somewhere, sometimes in marquee. So you're going to want to research and vet and make sure that these are not just widgets and gadgets and sizzle, but that they're organic to the way that the product works and that they provide tremendous value within that product. Those are a couple of really quick ways to get up and running.
I would add, if I may,
Hmm.
I'm a big advocate of, getting out of your comfort zone. All of this is pushing firm leaders and accountants alike into that area, but literally getting out to a live event, like a Scaling New Heights and some of the many others that are put on in the accounting profession to really see some of this stuff at work and
At
talk
work.
to some of your colleagues about what are you doing? I don't know. I'm just getting going with this. Where are you at? Again, I saw that with cloud too, where some folks were several years in to a cloud transformation, and others were just kind of
There were
going,
lagging
yeah,
adopters. Yeah.
yeah.
But now
But
eventually, I mean, we've tipped. We're on the other side of the bell curve. And
we
so,
really
and,
are.
and there are risks in being an early adopter. There are risks in being a lagging adopter. So you need to find where that sweet spot is for all of you. But thank you, Seth, for mentioning the conferences. There's several really good ones to go out to, but obviously I'm not impartial. So we branded this year Scaling New Heights Strange New World because it feels that way. And we
Mhm.
have Microsoft coming, their Copilot group is coming to lead a keynote as well as to co-produce a 10-hour workshop on Copilot prompting strategies for your firm that they're leading with Randy Johnston. So
All
this will
right.
not just be a come
It's
to
no joke.
scaling and see what's happening with AI. This is you can come to scaling and you can hear from Microsoft Copilot directly from their executives, and you can learn from Copilot directly with Randy Johnston in a 10-hour workshop as
Yeah.
one of the tracks that we're offering at the conference. You
Yeah,
need to
and
find places
here's a
like that.
tool
Yeah.
that is, allowing you to work with some of the Microsoft products that you already have.
Yes.
Um, you know, I always laugh at the people who want to, we talk about things that have been declared dead. How many times over has Excel been declared dead? And
Right.
it just won't.
Still dominant in the market, yeah. And
It
Microsoft
is.
is more relevant than ever because they have Copilot. Plus, they made a five, I think it is, $1 billion investment in Anthropic early on, so they have an interest there.
Yes.
And they
Yes.
own something like 25% of OpenAI.
Yeah.
So Microsoft's not going anywhere in the age of AI.
No. No. I was just thinking Excel. Finally,
Yeah, yeah, it's all of
this
it, right?
this is sort of
E-
a
Even Excel's
semi-tech.
makes it pervasive. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, not gonna get rid of it anytime soon.
I've got another
So
fun fact for you. The Dynamics product line is 8.5 billion in global revenues, and the Intuit financial product line is about 8.5 billion in annual revenues. So I know we see QuickBooks as king here, but when you start getting up above a certain size business, Microsoft
yeah,
Dynamics just they're
yeah,
dominant.
they're like when you're ready for that next level
Mhm.
of business, and I know that Intuit wants to be ready too. And it's interesting just from a company point of view to look at the positioning and where accountants still fit in. My final question to you, Joe, is something that it's not going to I think elicit like this is the final answer. This is kind of more of a discussion that I think will continue. But to get your thoughts, so if many of the tools that we're talking about, helping to replace or augment work that traditionally junior staff, I use that in really very loose terms. I don't even like using the term so much, but you know what I'm saying. You've been a
Mhm.
few years on the job. You're just learning on, how to do things. You're at a practice that you've been asked to, even in a CAS practice, or someone who has a CAS business, a lot of that core work has to get done, and it's typically been done by, more junior staff.
More juniors, yeah.
So as this work is getting augmented by technology, um, how can they necessarily learn or be trained? I'm sure these questions have come up in your passing too from other
Yeah,
firms
they
who are
they
just going,
absolutely have. And
great,
so
this is doing a lot of the work, but how do these kids, or I don't even want to say kids, but how
right.
do these
But they are.
people
They're younger generation. Yeah.
how do these people learn? How do you keep them, in thoughts? Great, I'm at a firm now that is really, not even necessarily technology forward, but technology present. They're doing the right things today, but you know what I'm saying? Like
Oh, I know
the,
exactly what
the
you're saying.
work
Yeah.
that I'm doing is meant to teach me.
Right.
Even though some of them might be 50, 60
Well,
plus hours a week.
the traditional path, Seth, has been
Not the
that
case anymore.
yeah, right. Well, the traditional path has been that I graduate from college,
Mhm.
And then I go and I, work myself 80 hours a week, making partners rich.
Possibly at a big four, possibly a large firm,
Right,
possibly not.
wherever you're paying my dues, often writing, often eating my time because I'm trying to learn on the job so
Mhm.
that I can apply the conceptual principles of college into the real world of application and then eventually work my way up to partner where I can just supervise the people that are doing that work below me. And what gets missed in that entire, and all that cycle, that wheel, the client's missed. Right. So if I was going to answer your question directly, I mean, the client's a means to an end. They're the book of business. I even hate that
Mhm.
term because I don't want clients to be a book of business. They need to be
Yeah.
meaningful relationships with
Yes.
transformative
It's the
impacts. They're
relationships.
not a book, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, insurance companies have a book of business. So that's a legitimate descriptor there, but that shouldn't be the descriptor for accounting firms. So
Mhm.
what's happening now is we're breaking the wheel. And the good news, if you're listening to this and you're in that entry level kind of position, or you're about to be, especially if you're an accounting student and you're emerging into
Mhm.
firms, first, it's never been easier to start your own firm. That's number one, because now you have so many bot workers and technology pieces and so many different methodologies and systems like our
Yeah.
ideal
The
practice model.
work
You
can
don't
get
have to go
done.
invent the thing. Second, you can generate revenue disproportionately to effort. And third, if I'm going to answer your question for people emerging into the existing firms, those firms need to focus on soft skills training. They need to focus on relationship handling. They need to understand that these entry level people are delivery systems for transformation, where they are the ultimate sort of a generator of the transformative and guide and coach. So they're coaching the entry level people. The entry level people are delivering that coaching and also coaching to kind of to the client. Now, the best model you can find for this is in the healthcare profession. And I would encourage, if you can handle some manufactured Hollywood gore because it's an ER room, and if you can handle a few f bombs, then I would recommend that you watch the television show The Pit. And what because, and even if you're not going to watch that, you just looked at the breakdown of an ER room. You've got the attending, which are the doctors that have been working in ER for whatever 10, 15 years. You got residents, 5 years. Then you've
Those
got
are like
med
your
students,
partners, your
don't
managing
even have, they can't
partners.
even call them doctor yet. And then you've got the people that are working through kind of the initial phases. They just freshly earned their doctorate. You've got all these degrees of people that of experience levels. But from the very beginning, the people who are med students are looking across from patients and they're being trained in how to look them in the eye, how to talk to them compassionately, how to deliver bad news empathetically, how
Yeah.
to ask questions to get to the real answers, not the answers that are contrived or manufactured,
Basically,
how
how do
not to
people?
draw conclusions prematurely,
Huh.
how to connect the science to the human. And Seth, if we can do more of that kind of training, if the attendings, which would be your partners in your firm, if the attending physicians could focus as much on relationship development as they do on application of theoretical skills, we're going to function more like the health industry, which we should.
Excellent. Well, look, we could talk about firm transformation and a lot of other aspects of that all day, Joe, but this is just to kind of give folks a flavor, a little bit of slice of your thinking, someone who's been around and is very directly involved in the transformation of the profession. Joe Woodard, thank you so much for your time today. And on behalf of Ace Cloud and myself, I thank you for checking out this video and conversation, and hope to see you out there in the conference world as well.